Hello and welcome to Nightly Scroll. I'm Hayley Caronia and it is Friday. We have made it to the end of the first full week of the year, the first full week after a holiday at that, and we made it. So welcome into the show. You might be watching right now on Facebook or on X. You're only going to see a little bit of the show, and let me just say, you're going to want to stay till the end. So if you are watching on those other platforms, thank you for watching, but you might want to come over to Rumble. We are Rumble exclusive here. So rumble.com/Hayley is where you can watch Nightly Scroll in full, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And of course, you can scroll with all my homies in the chat. It's the best way to watch. And of course, if you can't catch us live at 6, that is okay. You can watch whenever you want on Rumble or listen on your favorite podcast platform, whatever that may be. iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, doesn't matter, but just make sure that you're subscribed, you tell a friend, you leave a nice review. All of that helps. So, and of course, you could follow me on social media at Hayley Caronia on most platforms, not on Facebook. I see a lot of people friending me. You're never going to get a response to that. I apologize, but Facebook's not for me. And not Threads either. I don't like Threads. But January 9th, today, happens to be Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, and I have the pleasure of having friend of the show, former Secret Service agent Scott Bryson on in just a few minutes. We're going to break down everything that's happening out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, so put your phones on Do Not Disturb. Nightly Scroll starts now. Developments out of Minnesota all week, and it really hasn't been Minnesota's day, week, month, or year. And between the rampant fraud, the death of this woman who accelerated her car into 2 federal agents, all that went on in 2020, businesses burning to the ground. I've never been to Minnesota, and I'm not trying to crap all over Minnesota. I'm sure it's a great state, and I'm sure, there are some redeeming qualities and great people, right? I know that not everyone that is there voted for Tim Walz. I know there are a lot of patriots there, right? Because I know how that feels. I used to live in New York City. I used to live in New York. I didn't vote that way, but I know what it feels to be like the minority in the political minority in this city or this state. And I don't know, based on what I've seen on the news though, it's not on my bucket list. I'm sorry. And speaking of the news and what the news is covering or not covering and not telling us, I found this video of the scene of the crime that has me scratching my head. Watch this.
So this is where it happened. There's where she crashed, and what the media isn't reporting is that this happened right in front of a giant rubber shark and rubber dinosaur. There's where someone was fucking murdered, and here's the most Minneapolis shit in the fucking world. Murder, whimsy. Murder, whimsy.
This is how you know it's a liberal artsy-fartsy hellhole. Just a bunch of gender studies majors turned baristas, turned activists, women's history majors turned baristas, turned activists, psychology majors who were really just trying to figure out what the hell was wrong with themselves and why they're so miserable. And then they sought out therapy, and their therapist, their woke therapist, probably told them to find a community somewhere, and they did. They found a community in the basement of a church with a gay pastor, and it was at a Fight ICE seminar. And then they learned how to use their iPhone cameras and their outdoor voices to combat a federal agency. And they learned how to commit felonies in the name of social justice. And then after a long, hard day of stomping their feet and screaming into the ether, they go home to their biblically accurate T-Rex that's in their front yard, and their biblically accurate shark that is also in their driveway. And in the distance, they can hear someone screaming retard outside the governor's mansion. And then they make themselves a 3D printed Beyond Burger for dinner, and they realize they forgot to pick up their kid from their fraudulent daycare at 10 p.m. when it closes, of course. And then they realize, wait, I didn't forget my kid at my fraudulent daycare. I aborted it. Never mind. That's what I imagine what living in Minneapolis, Minnesota is like. And here is a former theater kid making a difference the only way he knows how. Watch.
She's less than a mile from where George Floyd laid. It's by the laptop repair shop and the torn speedway. There is this woman, and there's broken glass. There is her body and a man with a mask. There is this bullet, and it's lodged in the snow, reminding the city what it's always known. Body cams haunt my dreams. I've seen gore on iPhone screens. 5 years ago, I assumed the world would grow. But it's the same president, it's the same story. Little man with a gun, he's looking for glory. A mother, a father, an auntie, a friend, a scream and a flash, and inglorious end. Then here comes the foxes, here comes the labels. A terrorist, a criminal, a national fable. But I've read the story, I know the last chapter. The press secretary is not a great actor. And when will it end? When will we start learning? I'm not 17, and it's still the same yearning. I mourn the righteous, and I mourn for my neighborhood. I mourn the Georges, and I mourn for the good.
Beautiful. People in the chat, yuck, turn it off. Stop, please. Enough. Come on. If I had to see it, you had to see it. But if you can't fight a federal agency with your iPhone and your outdoor voice, you can try slam poetry and a guitar. It's worth a shot.
We gave it a remix in here that was pretty impeccable. I mean, full EDM. It was
nice.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you guys. Well, anyway, in all seriousness, these people, they are, turning this into a political thing. They're comparing this situation to Charlie Kirk's assassination, and here is what this woman had to say. Watch.
And if you posted about Charlie Kirk saying how nobody deserves to die that way, but you don't care about Renee Good, you're the problem, you're the villain, you're wrong.
They want their own Charlie Kirk so bad. They do this. They want martyrs, and that's the difference between us and them. We don't want martyrs. We want Charlie back here with us, and unfortunately, he won't be. And we're not using his death for anything to push a narrative or to get sympathy. But according to the left, Charlie's beliefs were enough to justify his public assassination. We watched people celebrate it. They felt justified in publicly celebrating his murder, his assassination. Let me be clear. Nobody is celebrating the death of Renee Good. This brings me no joy in reporting on. But having a public debate, sitting in a chair, debating college students and engaging in discourse, that's one thing. Disobeying the orders of a federal agent is another. They are not the same. And it's disgusting to insinuate that they are. And the left wants Renee to be their very own Charlie because the black community won't let her become their very own George Floyd. Watch this.
Hey, so I'm not trying to be rude at all, but Say Her Name is specifically reserved for black women. That chant started as a direct result, and I remember because I was an organizer at the time. It started in the early days of the Black Lives Matter protests. I mean, like Trayvon Martin early days, when black women who were also being victimized to police brutality, like Sandra Bland, like Rakia Boyd, oh my God, the list is endless. They were not getting the same coverage as black men and boys who were also being victimized. That's not to say that they are not important. It's to say that the black girls and the black women were completely ignored. Hence, Say Her Name. While I understand the severity of what just transpired, it is also important to recognize that that does not mean that you should co-opt other people's movements. Black women own that for a very good reason. Rest in peace to Renee, but Say Her Name is not reserved for white women, respectfully. Again, not even trying to play semantics, but it actually does matter. That's it.
This is like when people say all lives matter. He's saying, no, it's only black lives. And no, you can't, to other leftists, you can't use our slogan. It's our slogan. And people in the chat are pointing out that it is racist. So, yeah. And that's probably why this next woman feels so guilty, even being sad about the whole situation, because, she's just a white person, a liberal white lady. She's maybe not gay or trans or anything else to make her more special in their eyes. She has to play this game of social justice minesweeper in her head, tiptoeing around all these other minority groups to see if she's allowed to feel any sort of way about this. Watch this.
I know that this is going to come off so insensitive, but I literally don't know how else to say this. If a white woman can get shot in the face by basically executive order, we are done for. We are done for. If this is not the catalyst to a revolution, this is it. I'm scared, guys. I'm scared. I've been scared since he became president, but I am scared. This is officially the white people problem. Y'all need to gather and figure it out. Dead ass. Dead ass. Dead ass. Dead ass. Ooh, I don't even know what else to say. Figure it out.
They're slowly getting it. It's not about race. It never was. It's about the law and who follows it and who doesn't. And those who follow law enforcement instructions and those who obstruct law enforcement, they face those consequences. If we could play video 5, though, that's what I was teeing up there. The woman who was the Daily Caller reporter who was out there, and she was talking to that white woman who said she was all sad about this situation. And let's hit that.
So, I mean, I'm just walking around kind of just dazed-eyed because I was like, I don't know if it's the right thing to do. It feels kind of wrong being here in some way. I don't know why.
Why do you think, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, like, where that stems from. Like, I mean, part of it is being, like, a white woman that I'm privileged, and I have a lot of privilege. So I feel like white tears are not always something that's helpful or necessary when black and brown people have been experiencing this for a long time. This isn't new for them, and so I don't know if that makes any sense in that way.
How did you decide that you should be here? Or are you still figuring that out?
Well, I work like 2 miles from here, so driving by, it was like, I'm here. I'm 2 miles. I can stop.
Yeah, well, tears don't do anything anyway. It doesn't matter what color the person is that the tears are coming from. Yeah, tears don't do anything. They are useless. And, sure, you can cry, but it's not going to make a difference. And, I mean, this is it's white, woke, liberal gymnastics to its Olympic levels of gymnastics.
And she took a 2-hour detour and then said, I'll just happen to be driving by.
I was just driving by, so I figured I would cry here. And now that I'm sitting here and I'm realizing my whiteness, now I feel like I shouldn't even be here to start with. And yeah, you should all just go home. That's really the name of the game here. You should all just go home. But if the left can't pull the race card, they pull the gay card. Watch this.
So that woman that ICE murdered today was a lesbian. Renee Good was a lesbian. And the reason that this matters is because, number one, her wife was in the car with her.
Not true.
When it happened.
Outside the car.
Number two, shortly after, her wife gave a distraught interview to a reporter in which she mentioned, we have a 6-year-old who's in school right now. Like, I have to go pick our 6-year-old up from school. After this, the child's grandfather gave an interview to the news. This would either have been Renee's father or the father of that child's biological father. It's unclear from the context clues. That child's grandfather gave an interview to the news in which he said, I'm going to have to fly to Minneapolis to pick up my grandchild who has nobody left. There's nobody left for them. That child's other mother is still there.
Well,
she's still there. That child was in a stable, loving, married, 2-parent home. And the second parent is still there. That child's grandfather is now clearly intent on trying to rip this child away from their remaining mother after they...
Yeah, so, I didn't consider the woman's sexual orientation when I saw her reverse her vehicle and then accelerate into federal agents. I wasn't considering who she sleeps with or what she does behind closed doors because that doesn't matter to me because I'm normal. But wow, that changes everything. No, it doesn't. But there are some weird details about Renee Good and her married life. And she was married to her first husband and had 2 children with him. And they are now 12 and 15. Then they got divorced. And then Renee was in another relationship where she had a son who is now 6 years old that lives in Minneapolis with them. That child's father died in 2023. Now Renee is in a marriage with this woman, Rebecca, and they are raising Renee's 6-year-old son together. But this isn't a child that Renee and Rebecca decided to adopt together or have together by whatever means. This is a child that Renee had with her ex-husband. So Rebecca, unless Renee put Rebecca into her will, saying that she is going to be the legal guardian should anything ever happen to me, Rebecca is not the next of kin. So this grandfather that is seeking custody of that child, he would be well within his rights to do so. Now, I've been kind of digging into this all day, and the details of the custody and where those other two children are, the 12 and 15-year-old, it's unclear if it's the grandfather that has custody of them or the father, her original first husband that she divorced. It's unclear, so I don't want to get into that, but I will update you when I find out those details for sure. I didn't see any reputable sources talking about it, just stuff online, so I won't get into that. But Governor Tim Walz, he called for a day of unity. Listen to this.
Hi, everyone. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz here. You witnessed in Minnesota yesterday a tragedy, the death of Renee Good on the streets at the hands of a federal agent. You also witnessed last night a beautiful visual, a peaceful visual, people expressing their constitutional and First Amendment rights in a peaceful manner. And for that, I say thank you. I've been very clear. We need a couple things here. We need Minnesota to carry out this investigation to make sure that the professionals at the BCA and the local law enforcement who's in charge of law enforcement make sure we do the investigation, and then to pull back this unnecessary surge. And so with that, I would ask for all of us to continue to do this peacefully, continue to raise our voices, but do so in a manner that brings about that sense of community. In Minnesota, I'm declaring tomorrow at 10 a.m. on January 9th, I'd ask everyone to pause for a moment of silence, to remember Renee Good, also to remember all that's good and right about this nation. And I'm going to ask folks, if they can, I'd ask employers to give their people some space. I'd ask each and every one to find a way to contribute in your community.
Safe spaces,
it might be
we're so
shuffling your neighbor's walk. It might be being at a food bank. It might be pausing to talk to someone you haven't talked to before, but to show the goodness, to rise up, to make sure that we're being very, very clear about this, that we expect our constitutional rights to be respected, that law enforcement is local, that we expect accountability of our elected leaders, and that we are not going to go quietly, and we're not going to give up on those things that matter so much to us. And chief amongst those is human dignity, respect, rule of law, all of the things that we know make this country great.
So he's talking about the need for unity, and someone in the chat was saying, and I started laughing because someone said unity, so we all use tampons. All the men and women of Minnesota use tampons, and that's how they find their unity, I guess. But, the state's falling apart. It's broke. It's corrupt. Thank goodness for Tim Walz's leadership in this moment. Where would we be without this day of unity? And all of this, by the way, was happening really because of the fraud that was happening there in the first place underneath his nose. The ICE efforts probably wouldn't be ramped up in that area if it weren't for the Somali community and all the fraud happening there. So, he calls for a day of unity, and then, he thinks that people are just going to be united like that. What is this, a Disney movie? So anyway, he calls for this totally useless day of unity, which is just a virtue signal. And here is a look at that unity happening on the ground in Minneapolis. Watch. Do not be peaceful to your...
Save our life! Kill and ice! Save our life! Kill and ice! Save our life! Kill and ice!
These people, it's not unity that we're seeing across this nation. This is just absolute disgraceful behavior because, there was no violence taking place in that video, but you could hear the protesters. And I think those protesters there were in New York. But the point still stands that Kristi Noem will hang and save a life, kill an ICE. These are not unifying messages unless you're unifying in the name of hatred. And protesters keep putting themselves in dangerous situations, and for what? I mean, do they really believe that their protests or that filming officers is going to stop their efforts? ICE is going to see that people are protesting and they're just going to dismantle the department and go home, because some Minnesota mom said so, or some activist group in New York said so. These groups advocating for these people to go out and confront ICE officers, by the way, have blood on their hands. But the left will argue that it is their moral obligation to commit felonies because they're standing up to the Trump administration. And for that reason, it's justified. I'm going to have Scott Bryson come in just a moment, taking a quick break to tell you about Fatty 15, our sponsor for tonight's show. As I've been getting, into this 75 hard thing, I've been talking about how I've got to drink all my water and do all my workouts. I'm getting 2 workouts in per day. And I'm a little sore, but Fatty 15 is helping me. And you, like me, probably want to find something that will help you feel younger and slow down aging. And I'm excited to share with you guys C15 from Fatty 15. It is the first essential fatty acid to be discovered in more than 90 years. Fatty 15 co-founder Dr. Stephanie Van Watson discovered the benefits of C15 while working with the U.S. Navy. And based on studies, we know that when our cells don't have enough C15, they can age faster. Fatty 15 can help repair and protect age-related damage to cells and help activate pathways in the body that support our overall wellness. Fatty 15 is a science-backed, award-winning, 100% pure C15 supplement that comes in a gorgeous, reusable jar. And I'm having a lot more energy since Fatty 15 sent me some to try. It's helping me get through my long days, and I fall asleep like that after I take it. So Fatty 15 is on a mission to help optimize your C15 levels to help support your long-term health and wellness, especially as you age. And you can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/scroll and using code SCROLL at checkout. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Well, with all of this going on and different angles of this situation going viral on social media, I needed to bring in a voice of reason. So for that reason, I am bringing in former Secret Service agent Scott Bryson. He is also the host of the Beyond the Service podcast and a Silverlock contributor. Tactical Detail starts now. Scott, thank you for being here. And I also want to say on this Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, thank you for your service.
Well, thank you for saying that. Oddly enough, I just retired today for the second time from the local sheriff's department that I was working at. So 30 years has been great, but it's enough, and it's time to do something else. So thank you for saying that.
Well, congratulations, and thank you again. My heart goes out to people like you and other people who put their lives out on the line. And, still, just because you retired today, you're still helping people every day on social media and helping people stay safe. So this is a lifelong commitment that our men and women in blue make. And we are so appreciative of you and everyone else here at Silverlock for sure. But this incident in Minneapolis is tragic in a lot of ways. It's unfortunate. But this video of this incident went viral earlier in the week, and I want to play that version of the video first, and then we can get into what went viral today and how this kind of changes things. So let's watch this first. So you see the woman there, Renee Good. She is in that burgundy-colored Honda. ICE agents are approaching the vehicle. Get out of the car, get out of the car. She backs up, gets shot.
Oh my fucking God!
Now, that is the video that has been going viral and circulating on social media. For myself, and I would love to get your opinion, this is why you're here, but I want to say my opinion hasn't really changed much since seeing this new angle, but I want your opinion. What were your first reactions when you saw this angle?
Yeah, well, the first thing I would like to say is, and I know your audience is already tracking this, but whether you like ICE, like the cops, whatever, if a police officer, a federal agent, whoever is giving you a lawful command, which they were, you have to do what they're telling you. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like it. If this, listen, the lady's dead, and I hate it. I really hate it. We talk on here all the time about how we're not going to victim shame or whatever, but this is her fault. And I know that doesn't sound very nice, but she did this to herself. We're going to get in the weeds on it in just a second. But if she would have simply obeyed his lawful, he had a lawful reason to be there. He's identified himself by his presence and his uniform. Okay. And she just wouldn't listen to him. You know, it's hard. I was in a very similar situation to this one time when I was in an undercover capacity, and it was very, very similar. I chose not to shoot. I could have, and I think I would have been justified. We'll never know, thankfully. He chose to shoot. Every situation is different. It's not cookie cutter. I will never armchair quarterback. I'm going to follow the letter of the law. I'm going to let the investigation take it where it takes. But excuse me, I don't know what's wrong with me tonight. As a guy who's been in law enforcement for 30 years, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt from me. Okay. It's called due process. I think that the left and Tim Walz and all these other people, they've just thrown due process out the window. It's like whatever the court of public opinion says is more important. It's like, no, there's constitutional law, there's state law, there's case law, there's all kinds of things. These, DHS, FBI, Secret Service, they can make it a little more strict. Like where I'm working, where I just retired from, in the state of North Carolina, you are allowed to shoot a warning shot. My department said, no, you cannot. So sometimes it can be even stricter. DHS, I looked at their website a while ago, and I'm sure you did too. It's worded very similar to North Carolina law. It says objectively reasonable. The way we word it is reasonably believe. Whatever the officer, he or she, agent or officer, believes is reasonable, then they're covered. It's not always pretty. This is going to be certainly not. This isn't. This is certainly some gray. You know, sometimes shoots are pretty obvious that it's a good shoot. Sometimes it's a little gray. I hope this turns out to be a good shoot. I feel really horrible for this person.
Yeah, and I want to talk to you about when it is justified to use deadly force. I think, because I was looking into this, and again, I'm not an expert, you're an expert, but I think there is, when you obviously feel like there is an imminent threat, that is a reason to justify using deadly force. And then also if a suspect is escaping a scene or something like that. So can you go through when it is justified to use deadly force?
Yeah. So there's case law from 1985. It's called Tennessee versus Gardner. Your people can look it up. It's case law. It's from the Supreme Court. What happened in that case was an officer had responded to a house that had been burglarized. It turns out it was a 15-year-old kid who stole like $10 or something like that. This is way back, a long time ago. And I think it happened in the 70s, but the case law came out in 85. But the kid was fleeing and he jumped the fence, and the officer shot him in the back to stop him from getting away. Well, case law, the Supreme Court said, look, that's not enough. He committed a felony. It turns out the poor kid was 15 years old, right? But that in and of itself, he's not fleeing to, he's fleeing to elude arrest, but he's not armed to the terror of the public. He's not got a knife. He's not got a bomb. He's not got a gun. It has to be reasonable. It has to be imminent. And there has to be a threat of loss of life, or like you don't necessarily have to die, but if a guy's coming at you with a machete or a chainsaw, that's a problem, especially if he just broke in and did a bunch of crazy stuff, then that's a little bit different. But just to shoot someone in the back, that's a no-go. But that's not what happened here. He was looking at her face to face, and she made some bad decisions, and then he reacted. And let's not forget, the poor guy had been dragged down the street previous, and it's like no situation is cookie cutter. And I just find it very appalling that the people who are complaining about this the most probably haven't even ever been to a range to shoot at a target, like a piece of paper that's sitting still, much less a moving target that's trying to take you out.
Yeah, and I've been seeing a lot of these narratives online, and I'm hoping that you can help me debunk them, either confirm or debunk them. So some people online were saying, oh, how could ICE do this? She was unarmed. Your take on that?
Well, she was driving a 2,000-pound car. I mean, that's a weapon. I do safety videos on this all the time. Like, there's a video, we talked about this on your show a few months ago. There's a video, and I'll find it. We'll probably play it for you next week. A police officer was driving down the road, I think it was in Arizona, and a guy had a rifle. Well, why in the world would the police officer get out of the car and engage a guy with a shoulder weapon with a freaking pea shooter when he can run over him with the car? Does it look pretty? No. To the general layperson, that's ugly. It looks terrible, but it was justified.
Right.
Dead is dead. It doesn't matter how you get there. And the problem was the guy was going armed to the terror of the public. So the officer, he definitely thought outside of the box. And I was in the room with a bunch of young officers, and they're like, oh, that was excessive force. I'm like, no, it turns out it was not. So, when you're taking someone's life, whether it's with, a chokehold, a knife, a gun, a car, it doesn't matter. People just don't know the law, and you got a bunch of jailhouse lawyers out there that think they know a bunch of stuff, and they don't know anything.
Well, we've got a few more situations or theories for you to debunk here or confirm. So some other people were saying it was the agent's fault because he shouldn't have been standing in front of the vehicle.
Yeah, it's always the cop's fault, right? What about the lady? Just do what you're told.
Right.
I know the job that I did as a cop was pulling cars over. I wasn't doing immigration, but when you walk up to the car, that is your traffic stop. You are in charge. They don't have to like what you're telling them, but they have to do. How is that his fault? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. Then I also saw people online saying that the agent shouldn't have tried opening the car door, because in that video you see the agent approaching the vehicle saying, get out, get the F out, and then he tries pulling on the car door. Is that protocol?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know what, they were conducting a lawful action. I don't know what preempted that, okay? But how many times have ICE agents recently been ambushed? Cops too, right? Like think about the Dallas cops there were 5 cops that got wiped out back then, the Obama years, because it's this rhetoric from the left. And I'm not saying everybody on the right's a saint, because we're all humans and we all say things we shouldn't say, but the rhetoric is mostly coming from one side of the aisle, and everybody knows it. Some people aren't honest enough to express that or acknowledge that. But you can only call a person a Nazi so many times, a fascist. They're getting spit on, they're having piss thrown on them. There's all kinds of, how did this guy not know that she was going to ambush him? I mean, there's a million what ifs. And I love, being sarcastic, how the left and all these people on the internet, the agent should have done this and the agent should have done. No, she should have done what she was told.
Absolutely. Another narrative that's floating around on the internet is if he had time to draw his firearm, then the agent had time to get out of the way. Is that a valid critique?
I don't think so. Again, I wasn't there. These people that are saying this stuff, again, every situation is different. I was in a very, very similar situation 25 years ago. I chose to get out of the way. He may not have had an opportunity. I don't know. Was the road slippery? I mean, it looked like it was pretty cold.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of what ifs. I think the guy, listen, we've got to let the investigation run its course. I know that's not what people want to hear, but until you've walked a mile in somebody else's shoes, and I mean, those are some big shoes to fill, you just keep your opinions to yourselves, because you guys just don't know what you're talking. I'm not talking to your crew. I'm talking about these wingnuts.
No, the people on the internet. This is what we're saying.
Yeah,
but this is why in this opportunity, I have the opportunity to speak to an expert. I want you to debunk some of these things, because people watching might be on the internet and seeing these comments and seeing these things, and then, they'll have something to fire back with. But another one, conservative podcaster Lila Rose on her show suggested that the agent should have attempted to shoot the tire. Is that protocol? What was your reaction to that?
No, listen, no offense to her, that people watch way too many movies. Okay. We are taught in all law enforcement, and I've been a police officer, a deputy, a federal agent. Okay. You're taught to shoot center mass. You're taught to shoot to stop the threat. You're not taught to shoot to kill. You're not taught to shoot to maim. You're shooting the tires and all this bull crap. It is so much harder it's one thing to shoot a piece of paper that's not moving. It's another thing to shoot at something or someone moving. It's totally different. It's unreasonable. And people that are saying that they don't even know they probably don't even know where the trigger is on the gun.
Yeah. And also, we brought this up earlier in the conversation, and I want to go back to it because Vice President Vance yesterday said that this same agent had been dragged in another incident in June with an illegal immigrant, and he was hurt badly. He needed stitches. He was in the hospital. that incident, going through that, could have triggered him in this moment. And I hate using the word trigger because the left overuses it, but in this case, I really do mean it. It could have it could have triggered a panic response in him in this moment. Yes. How do law enforcement officers cope with that, with previous experiences, taking that baggage into the job? Like, when are they ready to get back onto the job, and how does that impact them?
Yeah, I like that question. That's a good question. I think people look at police, and I keep saying we because I'm still basically in it, but and I always will, but we're not robots. We're human beings, and we have emotions and thoughts. And the one thing that I really thought highly of my colleagues at the Secret Service is we were able to compartmentalize. I worked with friends of mine that were liberal. I'm conservative, but they did their job to protect Bush or Trump. I did my job to protect Obama. We were very good at compartmentalizing, but guess what? You're pretty much in a sterile environment. It's a little easier to compartmentalize when things are copacetic. It's something a little different when you're being harassed nonstop. You're being talk. I mean, at the end of the day, they're human beings. They have counselors. I'm assuming they have some counselors and things like that, and shrinks or whatever to go to. And the guy wouldn't have been brought back to duty unless he had been cleared. But yeah, at the end of the day, he probably had a little PTSD kicking in. And I'm with you on that. I don't like the word triggered, but it is what it is, right? And if you've been dragged down the road and had 32 or 33 stitches before, why would you not think the same thing is about to happen? And here's the thing, Hayley, that people need to realize. Actions have consequences, but these people on the left, they're okay with Charlie Kirk. You said it a minute ago before I came on. They're okay with certain narratives. Like Charlie Kirk can get killed, and that's okay, right? But because what about Ashley Babbitt's of the world? She happened to get killed. A white woman got killed by a black man, and there wasn't very much talked about. It wasn't talked about very much. So to me, I think the mainstream.
If Renee Good ended up killing that ICE officer, they would have had a celebration for this woman. She would have been,
the bottom line is, if it doesn't fit their narrative, they go bonkers, and if it fits their narrative, it's great.
Yeah, and I want to talk to you about, because we talked about this too, but just to extrapolate on it, cops don't go into situations thinking, I'm going to kill this person. That is last case scenario. That is worst case scenario. And are they taught de-escalation is always the goal? And if that is the case, in this situation, was that even an option?
No, I mean, yes, that's a two-part answer. So yes, we are taught de-escalation. Of course, we call it verbal judo. It's kind of a joke, but there are de-escalation things. In fact, yesterday I gave a speech on safety to a bunch of realtors, and a lady in the audience had been victimized of a brutal attack in a bathroom. And this other lady said, well, why didn't you try to de-escalate? There's a time and a place for talking, and there's a time and a place for action. That